Roguelites are dangerous. Booting one up for the first time all but guarantees an unhealthy takeout dinner, a pile of unfolded laundry, and a 2 AM bedtime as you can't help but get one more run in, hoping for that perfect set of variables that will ensure a victory. Personally, I'm partial to card-based roguelikes such as Slay the Spire, which I played a few hundred hours of to reach Ascension 20 with each character, and Balatro, which I'm currently trying not to think about lest I never finish recording this script. Not often do I play first-person shooter roguelites, and there aren't many of them. Way back in the before times of 2019, developer Blue Manchu released what's probably the most prominent FPS roguelite in Void Bastards, a System Shock-inspired game set on cramped ships. It was lauded for its comic book aesthetic and tight gameplay loop and was pretty well received, though it didn't quite achieve that life-ruining addictiveness of some of its contemporaries. I bought Void Bastards but never got around to playing it, letting it linger in my Steam graveyard long enough for Blue Manchu to return with a spiritual successor called Wild Bastards. Trading the creepy System Shock vibe for a vibrant sci-fi Wild West, Wild Bastards features 13 outlaws that play significantly different from one another, almost like what you'd see in a hero shooter. Blue Manchu shoves these outlaws into a narrative campaign that they clearly want you to care about from its length to how much the outlaws talk. In the beginning, all but 2 outlaws are dead at the hands of the Chased gang, but with the help of a magical ship called the Drifter, you jump from star system to star system, resurrecting the others. The Chased, however, chase you the entire time, trying their best to put the outlaws back on the ground. While a novel concept, Wild Bastards spins a thin yarn. Each outlaw isn't much more than a funny accent and a unique kit, and the quest overstays its welcome being stretched over a full 12-hour run. When I thought I was finally close to finishing the narrative campaign, the outlaws split up and I had to recollect them again. Once I did, Wild Bastards threw another objective at me that extended the game further. If you're anything like me, it will annoy you how much it's all dragged out, and the fact that the 13 outlaws bicker with one another way too much. Fortunately, most roguelites don't need a compelling story. What they need is an addictive gameplay loop, and Wild Bastards doesn't fail here. Each system is made up of several planets that have a handful of positive and negative variables along with skills and items to power up your crew. These can range from extra enemy patrols to no teleporters that help you warp around the map. A lot of other things can go wrong too, such as when one of your chosen outlaws gets whacked by an asteroid from which you'll have to go and collect them once your other outlaws land on the planet. You can select which planets to visit on your way to the final planet of the system, avoiding enemies that you're ill-equipped for or targeting skill-gathering level-up cards called aces. Once on the ground, you navigate a board game-like map, collecting loot and triggering arena battles called showdowns against a dozen enemies. These enemies are pulled from an admirable list of like 40 different types. Though as an aside, seriously, fuck the poison snakes. Before long, the Chased arrive to hunt you down, so it's a rush back to the ship with whatever loot you manage to grab and onto the next planet. If any of your outlaws make it to the end of the star system, you add another outlaw to your crew and move on to the next, losing money and equipped items in the process, but curing any injuries and keeping your aces. If all your outlaws are injured, the Drifter warps you back to the beginning of the system to try again, unless you have Iron Man mode turned on, in which your run is over entirely. On the normal difficulty, this likely won't happen to anyone familiar with first-person shooters. However, on hard and very hard, you might find your outlaws kicking the old bucket more often than you'd like. I felt a definite intensity on hard as I rushed to collect aces for my favorite characters as the Chased arrived, avoiding them on the map as I made my way back to the stairway, which allowed me to safely beam back up to my ship. If I did run into them, it would trigger a nigh unwinnable fight. Very hard, on the other hand, was beyond me, despite how good I was at Halo 2 back in the day. The comic book aesthetic with 2D enemy sprites returns from Void Bastards, making it one of the most charming roguelites to look at. I particularly enjoyed how the enemy movement and reload animations had that comic book film style choppiness. And while there isn't a ton of variety to the stages, the swamps, dusty cowboy planets, and low gravity moons are all a treat to shoot dynamite throwing bandits and prickly aliens in. Each of these showdowns only lasts a minute or two, and the shooting itself is rudimentary. Each outlaw has their signature weapon and a power move called a stunt, and sometimes a passive. They can run, crouch, and jump, and that's about it. You can only bring 2 outlaws per showdown, switching between them with the press of a button. Of course, each outlaw is useful in different situations, especially when certain skills are obtained. Smokey sprays fire all around the map that keeps swarming critters at bay. Preach's Gatling gun can mow down even bulky robotic foes, but it takes time to wind up. Spike's stunt hacks into enemy turrets, turning them on their masters. Fletch's bow tracks foes, but more importantly, you can obtain a skill from an ace that has a 25% chance to turn an enemy into an ally. I certainly had my favorite characters, and you will too. I found Roswell the high-jumping alien and Billy the Cthulhu kid with his 6-shooters particularly potent, while I didn't have a lot of love for the dynamite-throwing Kaboom or the lasso-wielding Hopalong. Wild Bastards has a couple different systems in place to keep you from using the same outlaws over and over. They can fight with one another, meaning they can't be brought down to a planet together. To rectify these feuds, you must seek out cans of beans for them to share, which is cute. There's also a charged system, where outlaws that are overused get tired and lose potent bonuses like huge health upgrades. Outlaws can also become pals, bestowing bonuses upon one another if paired up in a showdown. I often wish that these bonuses had unique effects. The outlaws waiting in reserve will periodically help out with some health pickups or a brief invulnerability window. But it would have been great if some unique effects occurred, like Preach's ability to heal while dealing damage transferring to her partner, or maybe Roswell's massive jumps could have also transferred over. Most level ups and items feel a little uninspired too. For every time an item turns Preach's bullets into mini explosions, you'll get thrice as many flat 50% damage reductions to poison. In conjunction with just how long a single run can take, this means that Wild Bastards never reaches those roguelite highs where you luck into some ridiculously fun and overpowered build. And in turn, starting another run right after isn't a compulsive necessity like it is with something like Balatro or Hades. While not irresistibly life-ruining like those games, my second and third 8 to 10 hour runs weren't easy to put down at all. Sure, I still folded all my laundry and only skipped one meal to play, and I'll never touch the narrative mode again, but Wild Bastards is a visually charming roguelite with a satisfying and unique enough gameplay loop to keep me coming back months or even years later for a run or two over a lazy weekend. So in my reviews I like to ask myself, who is this game for? Despite having elements of a hero shooter, Overwatch fans might not like Wild Bastards after all. Simply put, if you're at all a fan of action-based roguelites like Hades or Dead Cells, you'll probably get more than your money's worth here. If you're more keen on the strategic, thought-out experiences like Slay the Spire or Balatro, Wild Bastards might not be for you. And that's all I have for Wild Bastards. Thank you so much for watching. I have a couple more reviews coming this month, so consider liking and subscribing if you don't want to miss them. And maybe take a look at my twice monthly JRPG focused video series called JRPG Watch. Cheers!